Hello, everyone, and welcome. As you can see, I do have a face under all beard. The good folks at Previews World, Comic Locator, however you want to say it, they know I love Ghost Rider. Always liked the Ghost Rider. I liked the first movie with Nick Cage. I liked it a lot. Second movie, not so much. But anyway, my favorite Ghost Rider was actually from the 90s era, and that was Danny Ketch. I like Danny Ketch because he was more of a Blaze always wanted, if you read the Johnny Blaze books, he always wanted to get rid of this, But in his defense, he did sell his soul, and he had a demon in him. Dan Ketch, he finds a bike. He has a different demon in him. He's the spirit of vengeance. Really cool bike. I like him. Ketch is not as famous as Blaze. I mean, Blaze is the second Ghost Rider. The first one was the Old West one, and most people associate Ghost Rider with Johnny Blaze. They should associate him, in my opinion. Who just got his own Marvel figure. I have to review that too because they sent me one of those too. Hasbro did. The Ghost Rider Dan Ketch, finally, the comic everyone has been bitching about to be collected. They have collected finally. Volume one just hit. There's different covers. I went with this because it's one of my favorite comic covers. The other one I believe is just a head on fire, which is kind of an offshoot of the black and white comic, or excuse me, glow in the dark cover. This has a lot. This has first 25 issues, Ghost Rider, it has issues of Punisher, War Journal, Moon Knight, Spider-Man, a ton of Marvel Comic Presents. It's got the Heart of Darkness one shot in it. This is really, really good. And to stop it at issue 20, excuse me, it stops at 24 because issue 25, which would be the next one, is that we're the Midnight Suns. It was a polybag book. That's kind of where that whole thing begins. So rather than me keep talking, I'm going to put it under the Google microscope, so to speak. We're going to take a look at this. This is the Dan Ketch, finally, Omnibus. So one of my favorite comic book covers of all time was definitely when Blaze, the second Ghost Rider, actually is introduced to Danny Ketch, my personal favorite, and technically the third Ghost Rider. So this is the cover I went with. This is, as I showed you before, a fan favorite era of Vengeance. This is my favorite run of Ghost Rider. And this is going to give you the first 24 issues, plus, a lot of bonuses. As you can see the back, there's his bike, the spine, which I'll tilt this way, Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. Volume 1. I'm surprised they haven't started the Blaze run in Omniform. I knew they do Epic. I'm going to take this off, and as you can see, we've got a really nice kind of an all blue and black cover of Dan Ketch's Ghost Rider, the Spirit of Vengeance. Move my cover so nothing happens to it. Completely wraparound. Marvel does such a nice job. As a complete wraparound with their Omnis. I think that's why they're leaps and bounds ahead of DC. But to basically, you don't have to, and I know I've heard other people say this, so I'll reiterate it. You don't have to have read like all the Johnny Blaze. Well, forget the Old West Ghost Rider. You don't have to read the original run of Ghost Rider to understand the story. I mean, there's a few things that will happen later, but in the beginning, it is Ghost Rider. It's the Spirit of Vengeance. Number one issue. It's a great issue. I have it. I have this whole run. This is the introduction of the Ghost Rider. It's Dan Ketch and his sister Barb. And it's Halloween, and they want to go to the grave of Houdini to take some pictures, and they figure it'll be fun. But when they're there, they run across some other stuff. You got this gang here that works for the Kingpin. You have another gang here that is run by Deathwatch. And you can see they're after this canister. And Dan Ketch is there. They interrupt him. His sister Barb gets shot. Dan grabs her and he decides to run to a nearby junkyard to hide. He's familiar with the place. And he finds this motorcycle. A really cool motorcycle. And he's like, it's new. Why is it here? I see all this blood. The blood's over me. And the bike's kind of calling to him. And he figures, I'm just going to get on this bike. I'm going to make the bleeding stop. And he says, I'll do anything to save her. He touches the gas can. And that's when he turns into the Ghost Rider, the Spirit of Vengeance. So he's the new Ghost Rider. He's got a lot more humanity, I personally think, than Blaze. So he goes after the gang. He grabs his sister. You know, police are chasing him. This is actually really good art. 90s had good art for Marvel. I think Marvel still has good art. I think some of their covers really reek, but nowadays, but back then they were all really good. And, you know, here we got the Kingpin training. And the Ghost Rider, you know, he's trying to, Dan Ketch, he's trying to save his sister, doing everything he can. He's got her at the hospital. You know, she eventually succumbs, passes away. He goes back. He gets on that motorcycle. You know, he's trying to do anything he can to stop. Once again, he sees the gas can glow. He touches it. Boom. Once again, he's becoming the Ghost Rider. Now he's going after the Deathwatch gang. The Joker gang is the Kingpin's gang. Also has hand ninjas. And, you know, Ghost Rider ends up saving an innocent. This one he's all worried about. And now the Kingpin, like, we're going to get all the witnesses. So goes right into a lot of these books back in the day. They had story arcs. Sometimes they would go 2 to 4 issues generally is what you were looking at. You know, this has some nice art. It's pretty much the origin, you know. Now we're going to get, you know, Deathwatch is still in this Kingpin. Now we're going to get Blackout. We're going to introduce to another villain, all the Deathwatch gang. It even says, when the innocent blood is spilled, the Spirit of Vengeance is born, and Danny Ketch finds himself transformed into the Ghost Rider. He's kind of just hanging around at the hospital these first few issues because they all kind of intertwine. While the Kingpin and his gang are looking for the same stuff that Deathwatch is looking for. It's a really good story. Here's 4. Now we kind of, you know, he's going to decide it's time to become the Protector. Now we're a little bit different. Now we're going to go after Mr. Hyde. Stories now are still semi-intertwined, but they're starting to go to a more one-off. And the thing about this one is, unlike like the original Ghost Rider, you know, who fought people like the Orb and Mephisto and Satan and all, this one was not just kept to these supernaturals. You can see the tease here. You know, you see the gunshots. Here's the epilogue. And in this next issue, it is the Ghost Rider and the Punisher, which is an amazing team-up. It's a team-up that they do quite a few times. He's taken out some punks. And forgive me for going kind of slow in the beginning. Punisher sees him. He thinks they're just, you know, messing with a kid on a bike. It turns into the Ghost Rider. And, you know, they fight like every hero did back in this era, the 80s and 90s. They have the big fight, and then they decide, uh-oh, here come the real bad guys. So now we got to team up. I love this cover, too. I liked all these covers. So now Ghost Rider and the Punisher are teaming up. I love Dan Ketch. Danny Ketch is like my favorite. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more. He's my favorite Ghost Rider. Teaming with the Punisher was really good. Now we're going to go into, again, the Trail of Blood. This one's got, you know, Obsession. This one's got another one. This has got the Ebenezer Laptom, also known as the Scarecrow, not to be confused with the Scarecrow from DC. He's more of a Halloween-looking villain, as you can see. But he's no match, you know, Living Nightmare. We're still bringing back, you know, as you can see here, you know, there's the funeral and everything. So everything has been kind of tied together. And he has a little more control. He doesn't need the gas can always. He can just kind of summon the bike and turn into Ghost Rider. That was a nice touch. I'm going to flip through a little bit here. Like I said, the artwork was good. And this did have lots of different tie-ins. Here is number 9. This has the X Factor and the Warlocks are all going to be in this one. There's some really cool ones, which is kind of what I'm trying to flip to show you. I mean, all these books are really good. This was the one of the more famous covers. It was a glow-in-the-dark cover. And then here we have... now here's we're going to go to The Amazing Spider-Man. This is the McFarlane run. This was issue 6. And we're having this because, well, Ghost Rider's in it. And it's part of Marvel did a lot of crossovers. And you can see there, Hobby has drawn a lot like Spawn. And here we go, another issue of Spider-Man, Spider-Man number 7, because the Ghost Rider's in this. It's a very nightmare-esque type where they're fighting the Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin's always been one of my favorites. That's why I have have a big Hobgoblin statue above my mantle. I always thought he was one of the more underrated villains. I actually preferred Hobgoblin to Green Goblin. And Spider-Man's telling you, we're going to go into Wolverine, but they still keep doing this glow in the dark. I wish it did glow in the dark. So now we've got a Marvel Comics Presents, another one that features the Ghost Rider. Another Marvel Comics Presents. This one is Ghost Rider, as it ends up. He's with Wolverine. Yet another one. These are all kind of, they're not self-centered, obviously, because, or self-contained, but because they all take place. But these took place during the Marvel Comics Presents. They would bring in a lot of characters. Ghost Rider was starting to gain such popularity. As you can see, he is kind of all over the place. Another Marvel Comics Presents. You're getting that whole run. Marvel Comics Presents 71. Acts of Vengeance. This was the final issue of the storyline with them. And now we're going to go into another great issue. This is MARC SPECTOR's Moon Knight, issue 25. Another beautiful cover. The Fist of Khonshu meets the Spirit of Vengeance, where it's going to bring them together. I'm a big Moon Knight fan as well. I think a lot of people that have been watching that know how much I enjoy it. I have a few issues with the TV show that they did, but I'm a big fan of the books, always have been. Of course, as I flip faster, Ghost Rider's here. In this issue, it was a nice crossover, and now we go back to the regular Ghost Rider Series 10, which is the Stairs of Blood. And I'm kind of trying to go just a little faster for a couple reasons. One, I've told you his origin. I don't want to give you a ton of spoilers. I'm not a big fan of doing that because I want you to read the book. 11 is another good cover. That's the Hex Lies. That's a good one. Now we're getting into the Nightmare stuff, which is very good because Marvel introduces, they're bringing in all the, here's Doctor Strange, which they're kind of starting, in issue 25 is one of the more famous ones. It's Polybag, and it starts the whole Midnight Suns, the Darkwatch storyline, and they tried to make a whole universe with Ghost Rider and the Night Stalkers, and you had Blaze, Johnny Blaze, he comes with Ghost Rider. Morbius got his own run at the time. Was Darkwatch had a run. I mean, everything was kind of trying to get a run. It was all a big crossover. Now we have Doctor Strange, issue 28. It was a very good idea. It didn't... this was a beautiful cover, 13. It didn't, because that was continued in Doctor Strange. It didn't catch on the way they would have liked. I don't know why. I thought Night Stalkers was an amazing book. I thought Spirits of Vengeance was a great book. And here it is, issue 14, Johnny Blaze versus Ghost Rider. Because at the end of this book, it's Johnny Blaze. And he tells this kid he's going to kill the Ghost Rider. Because remember, his Ghost Rider was a little bit different. The demon that possessed Blaze was Zarthos the demon. Which, that's the whole thing. And he's explaining it to him. Because he doesn't want to hurt Danny Ketch. He knows he's a kid. He wants the demon that's inside him. Now, when Blaze figures out this is a different demon, this is not a bad guy, so to speak. There's the famous glow-in-the-dark cover. Ghost Rider again, he kind of crosses that fringe. The police want him and everything. But him and Blaze are fighting, and this is here where Blaze, where he helps him. They kind of help each other against Blackout. They, I guess they kind of become friends. Now they're starting to team up more. And this is another great cover. I think Jim Lee did this, I think Lee did this cover. I'm almost positive he did. You have, maybe he didn't. I don't know. What do I know? Spider-Man, Blaze, Ghost Rider, they're teaming up against the Hobgoblin. You can see the Hobgoblin's reflection in his bike. I love the way they designed the Hobgoblin here. It looks so good. Now him and Johnny Blaze are kind of friends. They're the Spirits of Vengeance. Here's the next one, which is in Ghost Rider 17. They're all after the Hobgoblin. Blaze and Ghost Rider share a kindred spirit, so to speak. You do learn about it as you go further and further in. Johnny Blaze is like part of a circus. They get their own stories, and they, that's a beautiful, painted cover. They just become kind of like a team. He wasn't in every issue of Ghost Rider. They had their own book, like I said, the Spirits of Vengeance together. But here's more of the Ghost Rider. A lot of work on his bike. Now he's going into Punisher War Journal. And there's another crossover in here that I was really interested to show you. A lot of Marvel Comics Presents. Marvel, unfortunately, in the 90s, when people hit like a Venom or a Ghost Rider, they really overdid it. You know, it's like rather than just keep the book and keep it hot, we're going to stick him in other things and miniseries. And here it was. This was one of the better ones. This was called Hearts of Darkness. It was a wraparound cover. It's the Punisher, Wolverine, and the Ghost Rider all teaming up. It is a fantastic story. You know, like I said, it was a, I don't know, I hate to call it a graphic novel. It was more like a trade paperback, so to speak. But it was a one shot, a one off. It was really, really good. I liked it. Now we've got the Marvel Holiday Special because why not? Ghost Rider was in it. Johnny Blaze was in it. You know, we get back to our regular books. All very good. You know, we're here into Ghost Rider 20, you know, with the Zodiac has been a major villain. They kind of introduced a lot of new villains for him, which were, I mean, cool, but I liked how it wasn't just all Snowblind. It wasn't all just newly created. He was like, you saw Kingpin, Hobgoblin. He was bouncing off of very already prominent characters like the Hand and everything. And they had a few that were to him, which you have to. And he's, you know, he's just Danny Ketch. He's fighting crime as the Ghost Rider, kind of like Blaze. Only Blaze was always trying to find a cure, whereas Dan Ketch is, you know, he embraced it. That's, I think, why I liked him a little bit better. Issue 24. Now this Blaze again, you know, because he will call Blaze for help. And it's very good. Like I said, this is your 25 issues. Here we're into Marvel Comics Presents again, because he was in a lot of Marvel Comics Presents, as you can see. He had some nice one-shots. He had a good one shot with Captain America. I'm going to predict Mutant Dreams. Wolverine and him made a very good team. The artwork in some of the Marvel Comics Presents was not as good. More Marvel Comic Presents, a lot not more. They put him with a lot with Doctor Strange, which as you get to the next batch, you're going to learn a lot more. And they paced this out very, very well because it's not a, it's a straightforward read if you were to read Ghost Rider, but if you wanted to get all the other things involved in that era that all kind of tied up, I mean, the werewolves in here, you want to really do it in this way. That gives you the whole thing. It's, yeah, a little stranger here with some of the tie-ins, but this is really good. And this is going to collect. Then you have all of the excerpts and ads, the stuff that they did for Wizard and Overstreet. Everything's collected. This is a great book. I can't stress enough that you should pick this thing up. So good. So good. I didn't want to go, with the exception of the origin, too much into detail because I do think it's a book you should pick up. The weird fact about this is the book, and it was Marvel's fault. And Marvel can get mad at me all they want because they know they watch these things. Marvel, like I said when I was looking through the book, they were cash grabs. You know, if a character in the 90s, not so much now because they can rely a lot more on like film and everything, but back then, if a character was hot, if he had a hot book, then we got to give him a miniseries. Then we got to give him maybe 2 books. Then we got to have said character pop up in 5 or 6 other books. Then we got to give him one-shots. I mean, they could really oversaturate it, like Venom, Punisher, they Spider-Man. I understand these are your cash cow characters, but Marvel really in the 90s, I mean, they had the Punisher beat to death. They had him with a ponytail fighting hell demons. Ghost Rider, as you can see, he was really hot, so he was exposed a lot. I mean, there were great crossovers. If you're a fan, you like it, but now going back, it's like, geez, had they just kind of kept this, maybe the run would have lasted longer, because the comic ended, I can't remember the exact issue, 92, 93 maybe. It ended like a typical comic would, in a cliffhanger, you know. The book got canceled. So it was you waited a couple of years for them to just decide to release, you know, the continuation and put it in like a one-shot kind of thing that wrapped the two together. It was really good, but this was volume 1 of the Dan Ketch Ghost Rider. I'm going to guess there'll be 4 volumes. Some people say 3. I think it's going to be more like Ultimate Spider-Man. I think it's going to be 4 volumes. I really hope all 4 come out. Marvel's never really screwed us in the sense where they just put out a couple and that's it. I haven't seen an announcement yet for volume 2, but this is volume 1. I chose this cover. There are other covers. Local comic book shops, Amazon. I've got a link in here at the Comic World, but I rarely recommend, if you've read it, you probably already own it. If you've never read it, it's really good. Like I said, you don't have to have read all the other Ghost Riders first. This is the Dan Ketch Omnibus, Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance. Pick this thing up light as soon as you turn this off. But before you pick it up, like and subscribe.